Shruthi HS, Associate Director at Conviva. She is a product design leader with focus on solutions that enhance product experience, drive business growth, and increase operational efficiency. She guided design teams in creating desirable yet viable solutions and collaborating with cross-functional squads, looking beyond feature updates to consider the long-term product vision. Please join me in welcoming her on stage. Shruthi.
Hello everyone. I'm very excited to speak to you all. It's a very unfamiliar audience for me, being a designer, and also it makes me nervous. It's like, okay, have I used the right words? Are there any typos? Because it's a room full of writers. Please ignore if there are any for the next 30 minutes. You can tell me later, but not now. Right? So to start this. Just use this to set context. Two different ways to say apologies. One, a very indifferent corporate apology, doesn't even acknowledge that the user or the person has any inconvenience, and another one, very personal note from a kid. Now, if we remove the words from these images, it doesn't convey what is the context of the message, right? You can't know that it's an apology note. But then the background imagery, the color, the visuals, the drawings that are there, the font, that one being very bold caps and this one being a very kids handwriting, very squiggly handwriting from kid, gives more than meaning, it gives contextual depth to the information that is presented there. Right? The information, the words, the visual together is what provides the experience. Right? Moving to the core area of the session, this is what is the product development life cycle. Most of our work falls somewhere in the spectrum of these activities. Right? There are many teams contributing towards this product development life cycle. Each of them come, do their part in different stages of these activities, and go away. There's a lot of coordination and collaboration involved between these teams. What is common though is all these teams are pushing their boundaries beyond what is their core set of activities, core set of contribution, and seeing where else they can make impact in this entire product development life cycle. There are developers who want to move to UX or who want to move to product management. There are writers who want to move to strategy or to product management or to UX. There are UX who also want to move to product management or to user research. All of them want to contribute more towards this spectrum of activities. Right? Some of them are easy to break into, but some are very specific. Like if a developer wants to move into visual design, it requires a lot of training because the skill set is very specific, but then not others. Others are easy to set foot in the door into, right? So what does it look like if you're starting from a vague, I don't know what product we want to do or what feature we want to release, to the design stage is what I'll be concentrating on in this session, and where can writers play their role, where can they collaborate, where can they start to work with designers in these different stages. Beginning of this activity is a lot of documents, a lot of vague documents, wishy-washiness, don't know what's happening. Maybe this is what we want to be, how about, why not kind of documents. What if we go this way, what if we go that way. There are a lot of these kind of brainstorming sessions captured into many feedback documents, many note-taking activity. There's user research, market research, collecting what would users want, where are users, understanding them, understanding the market, is the product really required, is the feature really required, what are their pain points, etc. And somehow mysteriously that transforms into design, and when the design consolidates, it moves into development activity. So if you look at this activity, where can they contribute? I would urge all of you writers to think beyond your core set of skills of writing towards the strengths of what makes you a good writer, right? I have identified some there would be more than this, but really the strength of a technical writer is in making complex ideas, complex concepts of a product easy to understand for any user, and structuring. The more complex the product, the more bigger the product, it requires structuring that into a logical information system for user to quickly get into what help they need and get out of that. And then they know the product inside out. Especially if it's a mature product and a mature documentation team, they know everything about the product. And another strength is writers know where they would need to document more, where are the users really facing issue within the product. All these and more help in different areas of UX design. Right? The first stage of UX or design starts with user research. And user research through contextual inquiries, focus groups, and user interviews generates a lot of document, capturing all the notes from, say I speak to 20 users. From them I have a lot of feedback notes from whether it is demographics, geographics, what is their behavioral pattern, what is their pain points, what is the opportunities that they come with. And all this has to be synthesized into what we call persona, drawing patterns of the 20 or 30 or 100 users that we talk to has to be synthesized into maybe 4 or 5 personas that we can start to refer to in design, right? And this is where writers can contribute by looking at all these documents, drawing patterns across, okay, these 30, 40 users are there, and these are the different patterns that we can start to see emerging from these 40 users. 10 of them fall into these pain point category, 10 of them fall into, this geographics or demographics. There are any which way that we can slice and dice the user research data, but synthesizing that, inferring from that user research, and creating a meaningful persona also requires storytelling aspects, not just looking at patterns and pattern matching and getting that. And this is where I think tech writers could push their comfort zone and get into this. The benefits, they get early inputs into user research data to inform them on documentation, but also this is an area where maybe the user research team is not mature. They are just designers doubling down as user researchers. Documentation team can collaborate with them and help synthesize this. Okay, my slides, the text is broken. This is a concept. Before we move into the different stages of design further, I want to broadly talk about these two concepts, which will help you engage with the designer or product manager or whoever is working on this product development lifecycle a little more meaningfully. Be it any product, enterprise, consumer, or otherwise, always falls into one of these categories. Is it making users' life efficient, or is it engaging? What is the user behavior? Do they want to spend time using the product, or do they want to save time? And based on this, a lot of product decisions, design decisions are made. If it is about efficiency, then make it faster, less than 3 clicks. You keep hearing it. can this feature have less than 3 clicks? Why should the user have to click so many times? Can it be faster? Can it be above the fold? Why does the user have to scroll? There's principle of least effort. User doesn't want to spend a lot of time to understand this. Then there is automation. What can we automate out of all this so that it is efficient? Then there is engaging products which want to engage, like e-commerce, shopping sites. There it's not about getting user faster to the product, but it is more about creating meandering paths that they can explore. Okay, they're seeing one product, can they also explore others? Can they spend more time with the product? And here, spend more time within the product, and this informs every stage of the design. And even if we say it's a product meant for engaging users, not the entire product is for engaging users. Even an e-commerce site, after the user has added to cart, they would want to check out quick. They don't want to be spending a lot of time on checkout. So it's not the entire product, even it is which areas need to be engaging, which areas need to be efficient. Right? So after user research, understanding users and synthesizing persona, we move into creating the information architecture, or it could be which websites, it could be sitemap, user flows, taking a PRD, for example, would be like this, broadly outlining, okay, user needs to input some details, verify their email, and complete the profile. That's what PRD would give us. Sometimes it's a little more detailed. Designers take that into drawing the user flows. Okay, where does the user start? What information do they already know? What should they do next? And so on and so forth. That is done in varying levels of detail. Depending on the designer, some of them would just do a flow chart. And many of them go into the detail of creating a small prototype of the screens and then drawing the patterns of the user flow. But then, as a tech writer, if you want to contribute here, tech writer, since you would have the context of the product, you would know the product inside out, you could also start visualizing user flow. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as that. You could just do a very simple version of user flow. What do users see? Where? And what do they have to do? What do they see next, and what do they have to do? If we look at a login form, they see a login form, they have to submit valid username and password, and they would go to dashboard. If not, it would be invalid, and it would move to error message. If they click on forgot password, it would take them to the forgot password flow. Very simple, very basic, capture the user flow this way. You don't have to do it this elaborately. And this is also an area you could explore, start being part of. Then, once we have a clarity on what the user flow or journey map is, user journey map is, we move into the wireframing and prototyping stage. This is where the actual visualization of the product starts. And again, depending on the designer, depending on the product, the clarity that you have in wireframing stage, and the audience that are there consuming the wireframes, different stakeholders, the detail varies. Some of them may start as very paper sketches, paper prototypes. Different between wireframe and prototype is wireframe could be just static sketches. Prototype is more interactive, right? It could be more detailed. Again, low fidelity, high fidelity is what we call. It can be anywhere between low fidelity paper sketches to very high fidelity visual designish looking wireframes and prototypes. Here, tech writers can inform UX on, is it following the same user flow or the same information hierarchy that was set before. Many a times designers do deviate from it. They start with an idealistic user flow, but then once they start wireframing, they move out of that zone. So that's why tech writers can bring focus. Information hierarchy is being represented in the correct hierarchy is something that tech writers could start providing inputs on. And then really, if you look at any product, doesn't matter, enterprise, consumer, small, big, all of the products would, if you abstract it out, would be 5 or 6 screen types. There would be a search screen, a form screen, a dashboard, a search results, a listing, a text or visual heavy page, just a content page. It would follow less than 10 patterns of UI. And if the product is big enough, for sure, there are some of these pages or features that are already present in different parts of the product. So what happens generally with designers is, if it is a big enough product, designers are siloed into just working on one feature. But documentation teams may work across features, across the entire product. They can bring in the context of how it is working on another area of a product to this. And many a times it's possible that a workflow that is getting developed is already present in some form in a different area of the product, right? Then there's usability. So after wireframe, we do validation, and this is one of the methods that tech writers can participate in. Many of the user validation would require A/B testing or actually getting the user to do the testing. But this is what is called discount usability method, where experts go through the product and note down usability issues with one of these 10 heuristics. This was developed by Jacob Nielsen. He is a usability and user experience expert. I urge you to look in detail. This would help you in documentation as well as participating in design. Then we move to visual design. Now, general idea of visual design is just making the look and improving the look and feel, but visual design also clarifies the hierarchy, amplifies the emotional message or emotional context of the product, and many a times the user empathy kind of also is present. User empathy resonance is also present during the visual design stage. Here is 2 different visual design examples of the same product. That side, what you see is a very simplistic, functional visual design. It's a simple music player. On that side is where it has the just the name of the music that's been played, play, pause, button, skip. But here, so the context of this music player, if I add, is it's for old age people, say grandparents in care homes who may have shivering hands. Their hands are shaky and they don't have much technical ability as us. They haven't used these products. They have to start using. Now, the one over there, if that is the play pause button, it is very small for older audience to press it. What if the entire screen is a play pause button? Instead of this, can they do this? Right? That would be helpful. And just having red and green would give them more context on whether it is playing or it is paused than having a simple button there. Then another concept is how you look at the user. Even when we are using product and when we face issue, is it that we blame ourselves? That, oh, I am not able to find this out, or do we blame the product? This is not working well. The same goes to towards thinking about the users. do people make mistakes or systems are error prone? If you think people make mistakes, your wordings would say, oh, blame the user, you haven't entered valid input. If you would take the blame on the system, you would say, we couldn't process, we couldn't complete, and give the details of that zone. So it's one thing. And then, writers, obviously you know this, but there's always focus between tech writers and UX writers, that tech writers would be more instructional, would be more informative, versus UX writers who are more user focused, having more user empathy. But I would also urge you towards moving towards the persuasive. If there is something that is denied access, you could say that in a nice way, empathizing users, but you could also make it more persuasive, saying, no, it's not about access denied. It's a premium content that you can unlock. You can upgrade here, and this is what you would receive. My presentation is also done. So, yeah, look at the full spectrum, look at where you can contribute. Don't be constrained towards, okay, I am this, I would want to just move to the next level. Look at the entire product spectrum. And there will be for sure many areas where there are no clear owners of who is doing this particular thing. For example, accessibility. Many teams overlook accessibility. Writers can jump in over there. Many areas like that which don't have clear owners. So find those areas and start owning it. That's where you can contribute more towards the entire product development spectrum.
Thank you, Shruti. We now open the floor for a question and answer session with Shruti. So if you would like to ask something, please raise your hand.
We have one question from.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. My one question is, in technical writing, one thing which I have not been able to implement is, how do you ensure that the information is neurodivergent friendly also, because they also have learning disability, and our technical writers, we present information to all types. First of all, learning disability is something which is not very prevalent. People know what's happening with them. So how do you ensure your information on your entire visually, the way you said, visually you ensure you make some changes in our information development field to ensure that you are more inclusive to them. Like for example, you spoke very well about the age discrimination when we design things, when we design technical, even writing, technical writing, we only think of highest and the most, proficient users, but we forget the weakest. I think that is where we come in. So the color representation and everything was very beautiful. How would you suggest to ensure your information is neurodivergent? Neurodivergent friendly, or it helps users to learn and pick up things faster. So either of those two.
I haven't thought much of neurodivergence, honestly, but an approach on inclusivity is what I would give. Is when you're 95% of your audience you would consider as normal people, not having any disability, or consider normal according to normal perspective, design for them and find a way to include the other 5% so that it doesn't hamper the 95%. I've seen many times where, color blindness is one thing that keeps coming up in design. Okay, how do we support colorblind people? And then I've seen that designers, instead of, color blindness, base assumption, you can't depend on color to make decision. But then I've seen many designers who are trying to find a color which would also include the color blindness issue. But then, base assumption, you can't depend on color. There is no one kind of color blindness. So have a normal red, yellow, green, but then have another visual identifier which would help the colorblind issues. I would say the same on neurodivergence.
I just have a question here.
Shruthi, hi. Thank you for that wonderful narration. I have a question here. Most of the time when we are working with things like this, we often interchangeably use or use in place of other the two terms. One is user role and persona. So how do you really differentiate that?
So user role, I would say, is it a writer, is it a tech ops person, is it a designer? That's the role, right? It's easier to understand, so we just say user role. But persona is where you have conducted research with, say, just one role. Tech writers, I have conducted a research on all of you. I have spoken to each of you on your geographics, your demographics, your working style, everything, your behaviors, what products is, and I developed patterns. Within tech writers itself, I could find patterns of 10 kind of persona. So that's the difference between a role and a persona.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think that's all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shruti, for the insightful presentation. We really appreciate the valuable